hold on a second. Forget everything you've seen in movies about ancient Egypt. Toss out all those half-baked internet documentaries you've watched. Mummies coming back to life with glowing eyes, deadly curses, and, most importantly, aliens building the pyramids with laser spaceships. Hollywood and the internet love these stories. But the truth? Oh boy. The truth is not only more fascinating, it's way crazier and smarter. Today, we're diving deep into history and playing detective. In one corner of the ring, we've got Hollywood and bizarre internet theories. In the other, the archaeologists' shovel and pickaxe, deciphered papyri, and real evidence. We're about to unmask 5 of the biggest, boldest, and most infamous myths about ancient Egypt. This isn't just some basic list, it's a full-blown autopsy. Ready? Let's go.
Claim 1. The Egyptians had electricity. Yep, you heard that right. Ancient astronaut theorists say, how could they have painted those intricate tomb walls deep underground without torches leaving smoke marks? They must have had a clean source of light. Their main piece of evidence? A carving deep inside the mysterious Dendera temple that to them screams, I'm a giant light bulb. With a bulb, internal filaments, even a cable connected to a power box. Now, let's shine the flashlight of science on this. First of all, the Egyptians were masters of using light. With a clever system of polished copper mirrors, they channeled sunlight step by step into the depths of tombs. Second, let's put on our detective lens and look closer at that bulb. What we're seeing isn't a technical blueprint. It's a mythological comic book depicting the story of creation. These crypts were divine birthing rooms, not power plants. Every part of the image holds sacred symbolic meaning. The bulb is actually a lotus flower, which closes at night and sinks into the water only to rise and bloom at sunrise. For the Egyptians, this was the ultimate symbol of creation, rebirth, and the sun itself. The bulb represents the cosmic womb, the source of all life. The filament inside? That's a snake. Because snakes shed their skin, they symbolize eternal transformation and rebirth. This snake represents the god of rebirth, Harsomptis, emerging from the lotus, the heart of creation. And the base or power box? That's the famous Djed pillar, the backbone of Osiris, ruler of the afterlife. The Djed symbolizes stability and eternal order. When the Djed stood upright, the world was in perfect balance. So, no, it's not an engineering schematic, it's a visual poem, a sacred stone prayer to keep their world stable, blessed, and full of rebirth. Yes, the Egyptians were brilliant engineers, but their genius lay in their understanding of nature and mythology, not volts and amps. Myth 2. Pharaoh's Air Force. This one's a classic. In the sacred city of Abydos, on a temple wall, there are hieroglyphs that seem to show a modern Apache helicopter, a tank, a submarine, even a spaceship. Some say it's proof of lost ancient technology, or a birthday gift from their alien buddies. This carving has become the poster child of ancient alien conspiracy theories. But what's the real story? It all comes down to something you could call royal graffiti. Let's rewind the scene. Pharaoh Seti I comes in and carves one of his grand royal titles into the temple wall. Something like, "He who defeats the 9 bows." Years later, his son, Ramesses II, one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs, decides, hey, this is a good spot. My name should be here too. So he orders his titles to be carved right over his father's on a fresh layer of plaster. What happens next? Over time, the plaster and paint fade, and the 2 layers blend together. Now, think about how the human brain works. It's hardwired to find familiar patterns in chaos. A 21st century brain sees overlapping ancient symbols and thinks, yep, helicopter. That tank? It's actually the overlap of a hand symbol and a finger glyph. It's an incredible historical optical illusion that took thousands of years to form. This phenomenon is called pareidolia, like seeing animals in the clouds. Myth 3. The pyramids were built by slaves. Picture the Hollywood scene. The crack of a whip, slaves screaming, and Charlton Heston in the 10 Commandments. People crushed like ants under massive stones. That's the image movies and even old textbooks burned into our minds. But let's go to the real crime scene, where archaeologists dug. The main source of this myth is the Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt 2,000 years after the pyramids were built. Basically, he was writing down local gossip. But archaeology tells a completely different story. Next to the pyramids, they found a whole city built for the workers. This was a bustling workers' village. Massive bakeries produced thousands of loaves daily. Fish came in from the Nile. They even had a brewery. More importantly, they found remains of hospitals and skeletons with healed fractures, evidence of medical care. Would anyone bother to care for a disposable slave like that? Of course not. These were skilled, valued laborers. And here's the best proof. Graffiti left by the workers themselves. The work teams gave themselves cheeky nicknames like Khufu's Friends or Mankaure's Drunkards. They proudly painted these on blocks deep inside the pyramids, where no one would ever see. That's not the mindset of a broken slave. That's pride. These workers were even buried with honor near the sacred pyramid, a huge privilege. So, no, they weren't slaves. They were Egypt's national construction team, the finest engineers, carpenters, stonecutters, and laborers, united by pay, benefits, and pride in building the eternal symbols of their civilization.
Myth 4. Stone Age tools couldn't do this. People say, wait a second, blocks the size of elephants? Cut so precisely a hair can't fit between them? No way they did that with soft copper chisels and stone hammers. They had to have alien lasers. But here's a secret. They didn't rely on brute force. They relied on brains. The key to solving the puzzle? It wasn't hard work, it was smart work. They knew copper was too soft to cut granite. So what did they do? They used abrasives. Copper saws weren't for cutting, they were for moving quartz sand back and forth. It was the sand, hard as tiny blades, that cut the stone. That's basically how modern wet saws work today. For rough shaping, they used round, heavy hammers made of dolerite. That insane precision? It was only for the outer casing stones, made of softer limestone. The internal blocks are much rougher and irregular. They installed the smooth outer blocks first, then polished them in place to create that mirror-like finish. To move the multi-ton blocks, they used wooden sleds, and instead of 100 men pushing, one smart guy poured water in front of the sled. A 2014 scientific study showed this simple trick reduced friction by 50%. For lifting, they used a clever system of internal and external ramps that rose along with the pyramid. So no alien tech here, just brilliant physics, clever engineering, and deep knowledge of the materials they had. They were material scientists of their time.
And now we reach the internet's most explosive debate. Were the ancient Egyptians black or white? This debate is more about modern politics and identity than ancient history. But as history detectives, let's stick to the evidence. Geography is everything. Egypt was a crossroads of civilization, a narrow, fertile corridor between Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. People came and went for thousands of years. Expecting a pure race from such a place is like expecting a river to stay one color forever. The Egyptians clearly distinguished themselves in their art. They painted themselves with reddish-brown skin. Nubians from the south were shown with black skin. Libyans from the west had lighter skin and tattoos. Asians from the east had yellow skin and distinctive beards. They clearly saw themselves as a unique group. And the final nail in the coffin? A 2017 study in the journal Nature analyzed DNA from 90 mummies across different periods. What did they find? The closest genetic links were to Near Eastern populations. Interestingly, Sub-Saharan African genes became more common only in later periods, after the age of the pharaohs. So the ancient Egyptians were a distinct people, shaped by the Nile Valley's unique geography. Of course, over 3,000 years of history, there was diversity, like the powerful black Nubian pharaohs. But slapping modern racial labels on them is inaccurate and unscientific. See? When we blow away the dust of myths, the real face of ancient Egypt is not only stranger, but far more brilliant and admirable. A civilization of intelligence, creativity, and power, whose achievements don't need aliens or lost technologies to explain them. Thanks for sticking with me through this historical autopsy. Which myth surprised you the most? And which civilization or legend should we dive into next? Tell me in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more ancient world secrets.